And welcome everybody to the Meta High School Championship here. I am Midnight, joined by Tico for the League of Legends that is about to kick off and what should be a very exciting best of three series between these two teams.
Yeah, everyone, welcome. It is I, Tico, and your other caster, the less relevant one, Midnight. How are we doing today,
Ouch.
Midnight? How are we feeling?
That's things a little bit there, but I'm feeling great, and I'm really excited to see these two teams butting head in the best of three series here, because this is going to decide pretty much everything to see who gets their way to the finals for League of Legends. So a lot on for these teams, say who's going to be able to climb their way up the ranks and be able to find their way into the grand final for the League of Legends competition over here at Meta. But of course, they've got one more. They've got one best of three series before they're able to get there, Tico. And I'm very excited to see how they're going to go in this particular series.
Yeah, me too. But before we do get into the nitty-gritty details, the little finer details about the different players and all the different play styles and what the champions play, we do have a birthday.
Oh,
for one of our three pandas from Kingsgrove. Now we had to ask them which panda was it that was celebrating their birthday today, and it was Panda in the mid lane. I cannot specify any more details for you because I don't have any. It's Panda in the mid lane. So
it's mid lane Panda. There we go.
Mid lane Panda, yeah, Panda with the Platinum 2 rank.
Well, happy birthday to you, buddy, and best of luck in your best of three series here. Of course, he is part of the Kingsgrove lineup that representing their school to charge forward, facing up against their opponents today, which is, of course, going to be the roster of Melbourne High School. These two teams will be butting heads over who will be able to get their way to the grand final against, I believe, Rangitoto College, who are currently waiting in anticipation to see who will be able to make their way up against them and how will they go. So a lot of interest from everyone, I think, in this particular best of three. So much rides on what we are going to see today, Tico. And I am really excited for these teams to dive into game number one, because in a best of series, game number one is usually the most explosive of the bunch and also the most interesting when it comes to pick and ban.
Yeah, but also it also does come down to the last game. And really, honestly, most games except for the middle one, because the middle one we all know can be probably the least eventful. I could be wrong, but yeah, no, I do agree that the first game is probably the most eventful, the one where you get a lot of, like, you got these two new teams, they're fighting up against each other. They haven't played each other in let's say a week. It's been more than a week. But at your any tournament, it's probably been about a week, maybe a day. But I'm just saying, they haven't played each other in a while. They don't know what each other's play styles are like. We don't know the champion pool, so they've done a little bit of their research, but that research doesn't necessarily translate over to real life. Like, you got stuff on paper, but honestly, sometimes it doesn't translate. So we'll see if they're going to be able to get this one going.
Yeah, and in a best of series, game number one on a personal level, I find the best and the most exciting, because this is the game where 9 times out of 10, teams are willing to experiment. Teams are willing to try something a little bit out of the ordinary, because if you lose, you have next 2 games to recover, and if you win, it gets you a massive step ahead, because this is the game where you pull out the cheese. Because then games 2 and if you get to game number 3, the opponents are spending the whole time worrying, oh god, are they going to pull out, the Master Yi Lulu combo or whatever cheese you decide to pull out in game number 1. So I hope for cheese, and I've got my palate's ready to go, Tico, for this first game of the series.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to get that cheese knife. You got to get it ready. Got to have that little sauce on top. What do you call it? The jam that you put on top of the cheese, so it's not too intense cheese flavor, especially with the blue cheese.
Have you ever actually eaten fancy cheese, Tico? I don't think you have, given what I'm hearing.
I don't like cheese.
Oh my god.
I don't like cheese by itself, like melted cheese on pizza. Now I can go for that, but I can't go for like solid blocks of cheese.
You are not an intellectual, is what we're learning here, Tico.
I just like my cheese melted on a pizza like a true gamer. Midnight.
I'm more disappointed in you every day we cast together, Tico. Now, driving ourselves, of course, back to this series between these two teams, I'm really interested how these teams are going to go because both Kingsgrove and Melbourne High School have in times past, last year for Meta, have been in these situations. They have climbed their ways up the ladder. So these players shouldn't be too unprepared for what they're going to have to face today in terms of the pressure that they're going to be feeling. As we see the first bands kicking off a game at number 1, and I'm sure it surprises the grand total of 0 people to see Jungle Panda's Rengar is off the table. We are not letting that pass.
Yeah, Panda in the jungle. You know what? Jungle Panda will keep going with that one. Yeah, they do not want him access on that Rengar. Rengar is a dangerous champion to keep him on. Shen is just top tier meta. Almost basically S tier top laner, so definitely a good option to take off the board as well.
Yeah. Continuing through slow and steady, Melbourne High School have, of course, taken into the second ban is the Shen. I love Shen's ban right now. I think he's one of the strongest top laners, next to the likes of the Mordekaiser, next to the likes of the Ornn. So to take him off the table is really clever, I think. The the Leona surprises me a little bit here, Tico. She's not particularly meta, but she is a brilliant engaged support, so that might be a bit more of a tendency towards the player as opposed to the champion.
Well, I mean, Leona does have some good synergies with some other AD carries. Like, Misfortune is the first one that springs to my mind. So, that's probably been taken off the board from the side of Melbourne High School with that Leona ban. But there are still other options as well. Okay.
Well, we'll get to find out soon, as the final bans coming through here are the Morgana as well as, of course, the Akali, taken up by Kingsgrove. That final ban there, obviously aimed at Chef Jeff. We've seen him before on the Akali. It was nightmare fuel. I had nightmares about that damn thing. So, love to see that taken away. And unsurprisingly, one of the top tier marksmen that is hanging around right now is, of course, the Ashe, Caitlyn, and Senna. 2 of which have already been grabbed nice and early, Tico. That's what we want to see.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see support being locked in and a Senna AD carry. So, yes, Senna Lux, very, very hard lane to go into. Poke heavy, they've got sustain for days, shields, heals. It's going to be somewhat of a good lane for Panda and Oo. We'll just have to see what the support could be picked up here. I want to see a hard engage, Blitzcrank, Thresh, Nautilus.
Yeah, I think we got the same well. There we go. The Nautilus is locked in. That's the solution to these poke lanes of the Senna Lux. You've got to get in there and kill them. The Ashe has engaged. Nautilus is, of course, I think the king of crowd control. I think I call him sometimes. There is no. I saw it, Ivan. There's no way. You have to go for an aggressive jungler here, to match the aggression you're going to be seeing out of the likes of the Nautilus and the Ashe. I think Graves here is a brilliant lock-in. I'd love to see Gomnasai on that champion. And unsurprisingly, these teams are taking game number 1's champion selects quite smart, keeping their solo laners hidden for as long as possible.
But they do have, well, it looks like that they're going to go for their top laner. I think a smarter decision might be going for the jungler, seeing that the Graves has been locked in. But, you know, they've decided they're going to go for the Noxus Might of
Noxus.
Might of Noxus.
Yes, totally.
Is that actually his title?
No, absolutely not.
The guillotine.
I don't know where you're going with it. Anyway, so the lock into the Darius here worries me a little bit, because Darius is a really strong top lane. There's no question that Darius is one of the most obnoxious lane bullies in League of Legends, but you can dance around him quite easily if you play something with a little bit of range, or if you're just willing to give up the lane.
I mean,
yes.
You know what works into a Darius, right?
If you say Predator Quinn, I'm going to be particularly upset.
Well, just Quinn in general. Quinn in general does really well into Darius. The amount of, 80 carries top. A Vayne would do nicely into Darius.
Yeah.
But I like my Quinn, and I'm going to say Quinn goes well into top lane. Not that we're going to see it. Quinn is definitely not meta. But,
I'll be upset if we see a Quinn, to be honest.
I will be very, very, very happy, but we won't. We definitely won't.
No. Powering through the second round of bans here, double solo lane bans coming out of the side of Kingsgrove there. The Renekton, which is a brilliant answer to the Darius, of course. Very clever to take that one off the board. The Galio, I'm a bit surprised by, honestly. Galio, he has been a bit more prevalent in the meta the last couple weeks, but we'll see if that's in Chef Jeff's repertoire. As the question here for Kingsgrove is what... Okay, I was going to say what jungler do they lock in? The Olaf. Instead, they decide, no, bro. We want the Lilia. That's what we need right now.
Interesting pickup here. Very, very interesting. And... okay. I don't necessarily agree with a Malphite pick here.
I do. Now, you have to go for a Comet poke Malphite. And the reason is, you're never going to beat a Darius in a 1v1 as a Malphite. That doesn't happen. Your hope is that you can poke him down low enough, or you pair it up with another team fight ability, like the Orianna Shockwave.
That's what I thought would... well, I didn't think about the Orianna, but I was looking at the Malphite and the rest of the team fight composition. I'm like, that doesn't work.
Oh my god,
really
yes.
Doesn't. But, you know, the answer to an Orianna, the answer to Control Mage is...
Brilliant Assassin.
Yeah.
And that Zed excites me greatly. Because from Kingsgrove now, their composition on paper looks really, really weird. They've got a dominant bruiser in the top lane. They've got a skirmisher in the jungler. They've got a leave me alone edgy assassin in the bot lane. Their composition looks like it doesn't really know what it wants to do. But in essence, I'm pretty sure this just comes across as like a 1-3-1 or even a 1-4 split push comp coming out of the Kingsgrove, isn't it?
I would probably agree with a 1-4. Zed might be able to get onto a sideway for a 1-3-1, but I do think that he might... it depends on how far ahead Panda gets. If Panda in the mid lane is sort of not struggling, but at a same level as the rest of the team, he'll have to join in with a 1-4 split. But if he gets ahead, that's when the Zed starts to come online. That's when a Zed has the power to split push, so that can become a 1-3-1.
And with that Zed getting ahead, I think it's like so critical that it does, because typically your answer to a split push is you send your top laner to go deal with them. Malphite is fine to deal with a Zed 9 times out of 10, assuming A, the Zed isn't fed, or B, the Malphite isn't 0-6. So hopefully from the side of Melbourne High School, Leaf will be able to play this top lane matchup really safe, because I don't see how he wins it otherwise. And then late game, mid to late game, is just like, okay, cool. I've got my 300, 400 armor that is so typical of a Malphite. Zed, let's do this. I'm ready to dance.
Now, I see a little bit of a problem with Melbourne High School's composition, and that's the fact that Kingsgrove North are never going to be grouped up. No. So, yeah, it's a good team fight composition in general with a ball delivery system coming out from the Malphite, and a decent amount of damage coming out from their AD sources, Graves and Ashe. But I really am worried that the Zed and the Darius will not be anywhere near where their ball wants to land. Neither will be the Lilia, because look, Darius wants to dive the backline, Lilia wants to sleep the entire team, and Zed wants to be on the backline as well.
In a way, yes. There's no realistic world where Kingsgrove set up in a form like a battle line where Melbourne High School are like, yes, this is what we want to be seeing. Let's go. But on the other side, that's where Melbourne High School's comp, and I love the Ashe in particular, really works. Because it's no longer a traditional... yes, it operates as a traditional teamfight composition, but it can also operate as a pick-off composition, where you fire out the Ashe ultimate, or you just use the Malphite ultimate to catch someone out when they're rotating to a new position. So I really do love... it's not going to work the way we typically see Malphite Orianna working, but they should still be able to operate in that fashion of, okay, let's find someone. We're not going to be able to get, a 3-man Shockwave Malphite knockup combo that, wombo team fight thing. That's not happening. But if you can catch out Panda on the center, or if you can catch out Panda on the Lilia when they're, rotating lazily, or whether they're not just ready for an ambush, that's how you get ahead with this team composition and force them to come to you.
Yeah, guys, but we are heading right into the first game of this best of 3. So please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with game 1 for Melbourne High School and Kingsgrove North. Don't go anywhere.
we are off into the first game of our best of 3 series here. Melbourne High School on the blue side facing off against their opponents, Kingsgrove North High School on the red half of Summoner's Rift, fighting for their chance to be able to get themselves access to the grand finals here for Meta. As game number 1 kicks off, Tico, sadly, much to my own heartbreak, there is no early level 1 shenanigans.
And they could have done something up in the top side of Kingsgrove North High School's jungle as well. Look, no one's standing in Drybush. Sad times. It's really sad times when you see nothing happening around Summoner's Rift. But, you know, as these things do happen, we are going to...
All right, so the thing I want to drag our attention to temporarily is the Keystone, and most specifically, I do want to talk about the Malphite here. Now, the reason I want to do that is obviously the Malphite has elected to go for the Arcane Comet, as opposed to the likes of, I think Grasp is quite typical. You occasionally see Conqueror Malphites when they are, feeling up to it. So, but the Comet here is really, really smart because, again, I think I mentioned it briefly, Darius will not be losing a 1v1 into a Malphite. It just doesn't happen. So Malphite's objective for this laning phase isn't to kill. It isn't to go full AP Malphite with a Luden's Echo and a Death Cap, as much as I adore AP Malphite's existence. But instead, his objective is, I'm going to survive lane, I'm going to poke Darius low so he can't all-in me whenever he damn well feels like it, and I'm still going to be a rock for the team late game. I just might not, be as relevant in the early game as possible. So that is something that the junglers are going to have to take into account when it comes to their jungle pathing, because basically Melbourne High School don't have a top half of the map.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Ward Saves Lives just makes sure that Leaf doesn't get access to these minions and basically shoves them under turret, because that's the sort of priority that Darius has up at the top side into a matchup like this. Like a Malphite into a Darius, it's just a rough matchup for the Malphite. So yeah, his entire purpose is probably just to survive this lane, and get to the mid game, pair up with Chef Jeff and say, hey, it's time for me to do my thing. Let me get my ultimate up every 2 minutes, and then you can get your shockwave.
Yeah, so that's the goal of the top lane there coming in. And the other part I suppose is going to be super interesting is going to be the junglers here. Now, Lily has got a bit of a, I think, unique jungle pathing way to go. So I'm going to be very interested to see, are we going to see any early shenanigans out of her? Because she does this really odd style of jungling, I think, which is this skirmish heavy, I want to fight you, but I never want to commit to the fight style. Which, when you look at Graves wants the fight. Graves wants to commit to these kind of skirmish fights properly. So I'm really excited to see when, if these two junglers will butt heads, and how that's going to go for the two of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the power of Panda, as we see in the mid lane as well. Just a lot of mobility. However, once he uses all those cooldowns, it is going to be a little bit rough for him, because Chef Jeff can use a range, run him down, and able to get these ones going. So, yeah, that's where we're going with this one. Guys, I think we are going to have to go to a little bit of a break because we haven't got our casters and broadcasters synced up just yet. So please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with your game.
We are ready to kick off the first game, guys. We are synced up and ready for game number 1 between Melbourne High School and Kingsgrove. We've had a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, and we are very excited to see how is this first game going to go between these two teams here. As game number 1 is kicking off, the timer is tick-tocking down the clock there, and I suppose something interesting that's worth commenting nice and early is the Zed has gone for, typically Zeds love to go for a longsword and a 3-pot start, but Panda in the mid lane has elected to go for a very defensive build, starting in the Doran's Shield.
Which is fair, I guess, because, I mean, as an Orianna, you have quite a bit of zoning potential with your ball. So, if you put it basically right behind the enemy minion wave, that really zones off melee champions and makes sure that they are, basically makes sure that they're not getting anywhere near the wave. And if they do decide they're going to step up, then you just hit them with a ball. Hit them with a combo, a QW combo, and then hit them with another E. If Electrocute is had, Chef does have Phase Rush though, so a bit more mobility on his side.
Yeah, trying to be, I think the mobility is almost required for the likes of Chef in this matchup here, because sure, the Comet would be a nice bit of extra poke, or the likes of a Electrocute could be quite nice for the damage. The mobility is so important for the Orianna in this matchup. So we're very excited to see how that goes. And talking about mobility in matchups, these two top laners are butting heads. Once again, the flash for flash in the top lane there, as Ward Saves Live realizes he's in a lot of trouble there. But the minion waves are actually slowing Gomnicide down to the point where he can't attack Ward Saves Lives. But finally he's able to get on top of him there for first blood.
Okay, so that's really well played by Ward Save Lives to delay his death, I guess. Trying to maybe potentially get a turnaround on Leaf, because that's the problem with Graves. The pelts of the Graves. And especially when you're stuck within a large minion wave, it is quite a bit of a problem for the Graves to actually try and hit you if you have something in the way. So really well played, but unfortunately it did not save his life.
But I must give credit to Gomnicide for that early gank. That is the one lane in this series for Melbourne High School that is going to struggle in terms of CS numbers. Despite getting the gank, Leaf is 10 CS down, as I think he should be in this particular matchup here. It is really rough in the early game for the likes of the Darius. So, sorry for the Malphite, I apologize. But we're now seeing another move here by Gomnicide's Graves, but I don't really think he can get too much out of this one. The kite back from Panda and Owo was a lot. And now the Deathmark coming down to the Gomez side. That's an early level 6 hit from Panda in mid lane. That will not be enough damage yet for the kill. But the chase down and harassment forces the flash out of chat.
Yeah, good flash out of chat as well, because if it wasn't for the chains, it was going to be the Lux.
Smurfs in trouble, forced the flash to keep himself safe from Lilia, and aggression that comes out of Kingsgrove. This is fantastic to see.
They need to get the lead.
Wait, was it going to die here? Unstoppable force in, and Leaf gets a kill in top lane by himself.
Right. Well, there you have it. The Malphite has turned this game in his favor, and I honestly think that's off the back of Gomnicide's gank. Leaf was too low to be able to actually continue that fight, but in comes his Lord and Savior, Gomnicide, and basically picks up extra gold into the pocket of Leaf, giving him 2 cloth armors, which is a good turning point in the combat that is against the Darius. So really well played, realizing his champion strengths and taking it to the Darius and saying, this is my lane now.
And that puts Darius in a really awkward situation now, where the early Bramble Vest basically means that Darius doesn't want to ever auto-attack Darius, the Malphite, sorry, because he'll get the healing reduction a buff applied to him. But then on the other side, if he doesn't auto-attack him, he's not dealing damage, and Darius needs to win the early game to be relevant. So we'll see how that top lane goes there. As I look down the rest of the lanes, it is pretty chill. The mid lane is an early Seeker's Arm Guard coming in for Chef, which isn't too surprising to see. And I suppose the only other, I guess, really notable thing is the fact that there is a little bit of a CS lead right now in Lilia's favor in the jungle. But then again, considering the 2 ganks that have come out from Gomnicide so far, it's not too surprising to see that lead.
Yeah, a lot of proactivity coming out from Gomnicide, and we love to see it. They picked up a kill in the top side. They picked up some more So yeah, it was a kill up in the top side, and then Malphite was able to solo kill the Darius. But yeah, just proactivity coming around this top side. I love that there was that early focus from Gomenesai up in the top side, because we all know that Darius, it was probably one of the bigger problems of this game in the early game. And so they really had to deal with that to be able to push in towards the mid game, get some priority around that, and potentially be able to send that Malphite against that Darius on that split push.
And we really want to see how that pressure continues now, because is Leaf going to sort of sit back and let... is Leaf going to sit back and let this top lane continue to be passive? Is it going to be a continued trade fest? It looks like Leaf does have the intention to make this a fight lane up here. Warsave Live is going to have to really push his luck there to see how he can get some more pressure coming through, as the bot lanes are being very aggressive, and maybe they need to be a little more on the care side, as Lilia's Panda is starting up the dragon, but it is on vision.
Yeah. Well, I mean, tried to get some vision, is going to be spotted out now, but yeah, they're able to spot that one out, get rid of that sort of pressure. Cloud Drake, though, is definitely something they
do know in trouble. Enchanted Crystal Arrow is available. Oh, they're dancing around fire here.
They didn't go for it. Whew.
Whew. I got so excited for that one there, but it looks like we actually might have a fight anyway. Chat's getting in position. Panda's moving forwards onto the Gomnet side as the two junglers are butting heads there. The continuation of the fight. Panda's trying to get into the backline onto the Zed. He does with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow getting into the next thing. Gomnet side is deleted thanks to Zed there on the back end of it. And now Panda and Owo are chasing down Chat and Eddie. There is no escape for any member of Melbourne High School here. A double kill for the assassin in mid lane.
Very, very well played coming out from these guys. They were able to turn that fight into their favor. They didn't lose any people. They didn't lose any players as well. They were able to turn the fight in their favor, get rid of the target priorities, and then turn around on the less damage dealer threats, which gave them the win off that team fight. And they have brought themselves to 1,000 gold lead at this point.
A good step forwards, and I think almost mandatory in order for this Zed to get ahead. Zed, as an assassin, is so critical. So if he gets ahead, he's in a fantastic position. If he doesn't, he feels very unimpactful. Yes, he can make one person's life hell, but it's not all that when you have got multiple damage threats on the side of Melbourne High School here. So with the double ups now, I kind of do need to see this Zed's Panda being able to get a solo kill in lane. Yes, Chef Jeff has himself his protection out of the Seeker's Arm Guard, but with 2 kills, the Serrated Dirk in his inventory, he should be looking to take control of his middle lane with the advantage he's been built on that bottom side.
Yeah, they do need to prioritize that one. But when we're looking at the current game state, we see 2 kills on the Zed. It's the Akali. Not the Akali, sorry. Oh my gosh. The Zed. And that is a little bit dangerous when it's on the assassin, who has potential to almost one-shot the Ashe.
I mean, we saw the one-shot potential in that last fight. Gomnet-sized Graves, who is relatively tanky when it comes to the additional resistances he gets from True Grit, he didn't stand a chance against Panda. He got full comboed and just deleted off the face of Summoner's Rift. Now, imagine that was someone who hasn't got any form of armor, like Eddie Smurfy's Ashe. Like, they're not going to stand the tale of time there. So, with the first item, Duskblade, a very, I'd say an interesting first item coming in for Red. Typically, you see the likes of the Yomus. I love it. And it's confidence coming out of our assassin player in mid lane coming into game number 1.
100% a lot of confidence. Panda's in a little bit of danger here, though.
Forced to run. He gets out alive. And with Rickroll, actually. That's really nice.
Yeah, they are able to pick that one up off the back of that. They do have priority around the mid lane and the top lane as well. As we said before, the Darius is shoving in the Malphite, getting the priority around this top lane, as well as in the mid lane. I really don't think Chef Jeff can really contest much when it comes to 1v1ing Panda. So has to be very careful. Neutralizing lane, which is smart.
Oh, but it looks like Goon Squad time with Chat arriving there. But instead, they actually choose to back away. They did not want to risk the engagement there. I think potentially we did see Oro and Senna's bot Panda making their way up. So maybe erring on the side of caution a bit too much, but for game number 1, it does make sense. They're already falling behind. They already fell behind due to an unfortunate fight down the bottom side. They don't want to give any more openings to the enemy team.
Yeah, so they have to be a little bit careful in regards to that.
But there is a point where this care needs to... You sort of need to throw caution to the wind, though. Because when you look at Kingsgrove's lineup, they've got some pretty decent scaling, honestly. Specifically in their bottom lane, the center will scale forever. And you kind of need to do something about that. If the two top laners are trading it out, Save Lives needs to be feeling confident there. He's got access to the guillotine. He's charging forwards, but he's by time. Leaf goes back in for some reason, but he gets the kill anyway and makes it work. As engaged on the bottom side, Panda is immediately cleansing up, but will not be able to get alive. The Darkness Shadow onto Eddie. He's taken low and taken down, but a 1-for-1 as both marksmen fall and the supports are left to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I mean, we can call that the Dawning Spark combo. Because that was intense.
Go inside. Run. Get the recall. Oh no!
Didn't get spotted out.
My heart dropped for that jungler, man.
It really did. And it still might.
Wait. Gombasai, what's Gombasai up to? He's feeling confident here as he's now going to get goon squatted. He's fallen asleep. He's vulnerable and he's taken down.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you stick around for too long. Save Lives is around the side in the tri-bush as well, so...
He's going for this. Ignite is down. Chef Jeff has access to the Shockwave. A lovely stopwatch to deny the death mark application. The Shockwave gets down. The Clockwork Wonder, the flash going on. One more hit will do it. Command Attack and Protect was enough to get Chef Jeff out alive.
Yeah, and Panda took quite a bit of damage from that as well, so has to respect that Chef Jeff does have that potential to escape with the Phase Rush, with the Command Protect as well. Just enabling the Orianna to do damage at a distance and make sure she has a safety as well. So they have to be careful for that. The next time that Panda decides he wants to all in on Chef Jeff.
There was going to be no protection there. No stopwatch available. And Chef Jeff has elected not to go rush that Zhonya's Hourgraph, but instead has... Oh, there we go. I was going to say, he picked up a Lost Chapter going for that Archangel Staff, and that felt super risky. I love this, though. Chef Jeff said, no. I need to be safe. Panda's whole job now is to all in and kill me. So he has completed the Zhonya's Hourglass. And Chef Jeff, I think that's really respectful and clever.
Menasai.
Oh my god, engaged on the bottom side there as the teleport coming in as well. This is a 4-man goon squad onto the likes of Kingsgrove. They're forced to run as Oro will be the victim of the fight there. Panda does get out in one piece, but a 4-man goon squad on bot side, the Dragon's got to be in their eyes.
Yeah, they wanted all the priority around it. They wanted to get vision all around this river, make sure that the pit was not lit up by any of these red wards, red trinkets, or control wards, so...
Chef's got to be careful here. He's getting dived on by the Darius. Phase Rush, a little bit of movement speed, does not get caught by the outer ring. The flash forwards, the dunk, not able to get the damage down, but Chef is in trouble. Uses that Zhonya's though, and the Goon Squad returns top half of the map. Oh wait, the cycle! That was a beautiful shot by Panda.
Yeah. Dawning Shadows doing its work from halfway across the map. I mean... Just need to be able to dodge better, Chef. Come on. Come on, Chef.
I mean, in that sort of situation, Chef was sort of in a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation there, considering he had just survived a 1v1 skirmish in close range up against the likes of a Darius. So, you know, no one's perfect, unfortunately, Zico. You know, it's just going to be like that. So, we'll see how that goes. As now, a quick look down the items, Zico, as we come up just past the 17-minute mark here. The Darius and the Malphite both sitting on one item apiece, the Iceborne Gauntlet and the Black Cleaver, respectively. And I think, interestingly, if you look at the bottom lane here, Essence River for Ashe instead of the Blade of the Rune King we typically see, and a Black Cleaver coming out from Senna's Panda. That's... I know it's like the new build, but that's still odd to see every now and then.
Yeah, well, I mean, Black Cleaver, you could say it's new, but really Senna is new as a champion, you could say, in that same retrospect. Black Cleaver is something that Ascena does want to pick up, especially into the likes of a Nautilus, into the likes of a Malphite, just to make sure that that armor is shredded for her carries like the Zed, and I mean even for herself to be able to deal some damage back or get that clap back.
Let's see how that goes. There is now the next things are that we do have to, of course, look around the map are the main objectives between these teams here. 3 minutes till the next dragon, a minute and a half until the next. So the Baron spawns, Rift Herald's up, but something's looking cheeky in bot lane, Tico, and I love the attempt here. This center is already nice and strong. You might as well look to accelerate here with a sneaky centaur in the bush.
Yeah, they really wanted to pick up something down there, but I think if they did smell a shark in the water and they backed off, they made sure, because, you know, Nautilus and his watery waste, they do have to make sure that they don't wander too far into the forest without knowing where this Lilia is.
Yeah, especially because look at the build that this Lilia has elected to go for here. I think it's a bit cheeky, honestly, to rush the likes of the Liandry's Torment, but it is such an efficient item for the likes of the Lilia. So I love seeing it, and we'll see how impactful it can come up to when we look at the next major fights that will be kicking around again. The game should be relatively chill for the next 2.5 minutes, unless the teams, unless we see one of the junglers feel particularly spicy about a certain lane.
Yeah, well, we see Leaf trying something in the mid lane. I'm not gonna go for anything though. Playing very safe on the side of the mid Panda. He didn't really have any vision on Leaf either, so couldn't see the rotations. I guess the missing ping came out, but that was very smart, proactive play from Panda.
Yeah. Speaking of Panda, I want to criticize Panda in mid lane not playing aggressive enough. Yes, he's up against the Zhonya's, but he still needs to keep this aggressive style going. Misses the Shurikens and will be forced to back away. But I feel like any single time that the death mark is up in mid, Panda Zed needs to be basically dropping it on Chef Jeff. If Chef Jeff ever feels safe in this mid lane, Zed's Panda is not doing his job.
Yeah, the entire concept of an assassin is to make sure that whoever you're targeting needs to get rid of some resources to stay alive or die.
There is no point where anyone being hunted by an assassin should be like, oh yeah, I'll be fine if I go here. You need to make them fear that you are in the bush there. And talking about fear, though, in the mid lane, beautiful Shadow will dodge out, and a follow-up flash to get alive. And then Murphy is in a lot of trouble. We forced to disengage on the bottom half of the map, as Chat is holding the front line like a beast here on the Nautilus here, but will finally start getting cut down. There's only so much punishment a mountain can take.
Yeah, and, you know the mountain is Malphite, right? Nautilus is just a
yes, but he's like a rock for his team, all right?
Yeah, but that, again, is Malphite. Malphite is literally the size of a mountain and is built of rock. I'm just saying. You... Come on. Midnight, I know you can do better than this.
Rude. And rudeness is what we're seeing in the bottom lane to boot here, Tico. Is least in trouble, I think. I think Panda can just straight up win this fight here. We've seen the smite down, the slow from Seismic Shard, the flash out. That is Lilia in a nutshell right now. No one can step to her in her skirmish-heavy style.
Yeah, well, I mean, Lilia's really good for sustained fights. So, with that, Leaf needed to run, and so does Eddie.
Oh, no. Eddie, I don't think Eddie gets out of here alive. The only way he gets out of this one is in a coffin.
Yeah, okay, they committed.
Excessive!
Yeah, they committed quite a bit to that one, but it's fine. Ward Save Lives got his guillotine stacks back for a little bit.
But you need to chill. Final Spark and the Noxian Guillotine? Like, Eddie Smurfy has a family. You don't have to play him that hard there.
It was a 2-2 Ash. They gotta get rid of it.
You gotta prove a point there. As we see the dragon taken down, dragon number 3 of this League of Legends game being given over to Kingsgrove, probably due to the aggressive play we're seeing coming out of the bot half so far. And for Melbourne High School, I am getting a little bit worried. They're falling behind. It's not by much, but it's by small incremental amounts, by small little plays. They're starting to fall behind, and that can eventually lead to likes of a Baron, the likes of a Dragon Soul as well. So Melbourne High School, I think I talked about how their composition maybe is a bit more better for picks, but they need to start doing something with it because right now they're the ones being picked off as Leaf in a 1 versus 2, but Panda not willing to let his prey go just yet. But Governor Sai comes in for the backup here, and Warslave's Lies realizes he's maybe a little bit too far forwards there as the Enchanted Crystal Arrow does not collect a massive heal, but it will not save him as that flash was just to deny Chad an assist.
Almost a good turnaround coming out from Ward Save Lives, but unfortunately, the 2v2 does not, no, 2v1 does not work in his favor as Panda just ditched as soon as he saw Gomenesai was dealing a significant amount of damage. Panda noped out of there, went back to a previous shot. I was like, okay, this is all yours. Let's see if you can survive this by yourself.
And unsurprisingly, no. Darius is 1-5. He's still putting together his second item here of that Death Stance, and while he will be able to take on the Malphite in a 1v1 probably, that's unfortunately about as far as we'll see Ward Saves Lives go in this particular game, because he's being bullied. And talk about bullied, Owo has been caught out of position. The Dawning Shadows to buy time, and a lovely flash will get her out without too many problems.
Yeah, they are going to be able to escape from this one, get some priority around the jungle, picking up the Scuttle Crab around the Dragon as well. Not in time to spawn with Dragon. 3 minutes still left on the Dragon timer, so I wouldn't be surprised if... I don't want to say not too much happens because I know that there is going to be a fight happening within the next 3 minutes before Dragon spawns again.
Oh yeah, there will be. This is meta Tico. There's always going to be another fight to start off here, but it should be a fight over lane positioning or the likes of Panda doing exactly this, making Chef Jeff afraid in any lane where he is as he dives back. And again, any single time that Chef Jeff is in this lane, he needs to fight him because, fun fact, Seiko, the cooldown for Zhonya's is 2 minutes. The cooldown for Deathmark is 72 seconds. So there will be a point where the Zhonya's will not be able to save them as Ward Saves Lives. Looks like they're setting up for another fight on the top half of the map there. The Unstoppable Force to disengage. Melbourne High School are running scared on the top half of the map here with the Stoneplate buying time for chat, but that is all it bought.
Yeah, but in come the rest of their 4 team members. A little bit too late to help out their support, but I mean, I guess that's sort of what you need to do. Gomenesai, dangerous spot.
Gomenesai, careful. They haven't got the... Oh, no! With the Shockwave down as well as the Unstoppable Force here. Melbourne High School, they have no choice but to disengage now.
They can't afford to fight this. It's almost it was a 4.5 v4. I mean, Panda on Zed would have been able to join halfway during that fight, but they're going for this Baron, and they really want it because they just final sparked Orianna.
I mean, they also did no damage to Orianna because Owo has not built damage. They've gone for a very supportive build on the Lux, which I think is a good build. I love to see supportive Luxes coming through. I think Chef Jeff in trouble now. He might not be able to save himself. Zhonya's not available. The Panda was just buying time at 3,000 HP as the team looks to be charging forwards. Unstoppable Force is available. The teams need to be careful. The engage comes through. The Baron is secured. Leaf gets a 2-man knockup as they're not able to get down the priority members. Eddie is taken down and taken low. Finally executed by Panda on the back end of the fight there. But it actually is looking fantastic as poor positioning from Kingsgrove gets the mace.
Yeah. They take Baron, but I feel like they just committed way too much to that. They were taking it too slowly. All 5 members of Melbourne High School were around that. They could not afford to take that fight, but they did anyway. They wanted to force it. They wanted to see if they could get anything off the back of that Baron, and I feel like they potentially greeded for a couple kills after that Baron, and they paid the ultimate price, which was an ace on them.
I mean, alongside that, Kingsgrove looked uncoordinated in that fight. We saw Owo fire off the final spark before the fight even started. We saw the death mark come down from Panda as a zoning tool instead of an assassination tool, which is what the death mark should be. So the team looked like they didn't want to commit to the fight. And then when they're like, okay, it's time to take this objective and run, they realize, oh god, we can't run. There's a Malphite and an Orianna on top of us. And, well, it goes about as well as you would expect, to be honest, for that Baron. So no one gets the Baron coming in there. The gold has pretty much been evened equalize between these two teams, and now we have a setup for the next objective being the Dragon. But we're seeing a jungler getting caught out of position. Panda forced to flash in over the wall to get out in one piece, but I'd say a bit of a disaster for Kingsgrove there.
Yeah, but I mean, that was good target focus coming out from Melbourne High School, making sure that they focus the jungler. Still sticking around with such low HP, risky, having to back here. I don't think they're going to be able to take this.
I think you have to give this up. Instead, they're going for the tankiest member for an odd reason. Warsave Live trying to disengage the rest of his team there. The Darius is a bit far forward, trying to hunt down Chat there as the Dragon is secured. And now the chase down may be kicking off here. Warsave Live may just be the sacrificial Darius, forced to flash to keep himself safe. As the teams, they don't look like they want to commit to a disengage, but they don't know what they're doing. The shockwave not landing on anyone, thanks to a lovely flash coming in from Manda there. Teams, make a decision. Engage, disengage, do something! As double flashes out of the back of the Dragon Pit signal the end of the skirmish.
Kingsgrove wanted to stall that out for as long as their Lilia was away. As soon as the Lilia joined the team fight, that's when you saw something switch from Kingsgrove. That's where Melbourne High School realized that they couldn't take the fight anymore and they had to run away. That was the turning point. It is Panda on the Lilia. They need to make sure that they shut her down before they do anything else. And so they're playing this one really well. I mean, both teams are playing it really well, knowing what their power is within their team fights. And Kingsgrove, they delayed it well enough to be able to get their Lilia back into the team fight with full HP. Yeah, it seemed like they didn't know what they were doing, but in fact, Kingsgrove knew that they needed to wait for that Lilia to be able to fight again.
Yeah, and that, coming from the side of Melbourne High School, you have to sort of ask, well, what was their goal there? Because you said they wanted to look for the likes of a fight, but despite, multiple different engage tools of Chat's Nautilus, of the Orianna Shockwave combination, or even Eddie Smurfy stepping up with his slows, they didn't seem like they wanted to commit. They got the Dragon, and then they're like, oh yeah, they're posturing for positioning, guys. We got to keep the skirmish going here. So it'll be interesting to see how, if that sort of mentality stays with these teams coming up for the next objectives, which is of course going to be the Baron spawning in just over 2 minutes now, I apologize, and 3 minutes left on the next Dragon as well for both these teams here. As game number one, Tico, I love seeing it, is drop dead even between these two teams.
It is very, very even. I mean, the gold lead has been in each team's favor, and it's still bouncing between those. It depends on what objective they go for, and currently minion waves aren't really affecting the gold difference. It's just purely based on the next objective and the next team fights to turn the tides, and I really love this sort of game. Yeah,
and coming into this game, we talked about, well, with Kingsgrove's unconventional composition that they're running, what are they looking for? A 1-3-1, a 1-4, and we are seeing that 1-3-1 set up on Summoner's Rift right now, but there's a problem. Ward Saves Lives Darius, I think, is too weak to deal with Chef Jeff on the side lane, and Leaf's Malphite is simply too damn tanky for Panda Z to be able to kill on the side lane. So you've got a 1-3-1 composition at a Kingsgrove that can't 1-3-1 or even 1-4 because, unfortunately, the strongest split push member is just not strong enough. As we're seeing, Panda might be getting caught in, Chatty Cruz going up, but they're going onto the Zed, and they can catch him out. This will be a disaster. They hooked him in. He did not get to move. All the crowd control thrown at the assassin.
Yeah, I mean, they knew that the Zed was in the top side. They knew that the mid lane had 3 members.
Oh my god, run! If they can catch out, this is going to be massive. The CC train all aboard, Panda. This is your stop.
Meanwhile,
now seeing a skirmish in the bot lane. But Chef Jeff, I don't see how Chef Jeff loses this, to be honest. He's just going to keep kiting him out. The apprehend misses. And now with the likes of a couple more auto attacks from the clockwork window, that's a solo kill.
Very well played coming out from Chef Jeff as well.
Hook coming down there. Owo using the cleanse of themselves to disengage. The Stoveblade coming out there. The tanky boy of the bot lane does eventually fall there. The king has to give over his throne. Over-aggression coming out of Chat.
Beautifully done, Owo, to be able to pick up that kill off the back of that. But, I mean, they want to chase down Eddie as well.
I don't blame him. That range is obnoxious coming out of center. I want to see how many stacks she's sitting. Yeah, she's sitting on 70 stacks there. So that is, where's her crit numbers? So she's at 90% critical strike chance now on center.
Yeah, the first dragon that Kingsgrove North picked up, Senna was able to auto-attack the dragon over the wall. So, just saying, Panda was stacking up really well early on, so they do need to respect that. But also, I want to go back to that previous one where they called out Panda on the Zed, because they knew that the Zed was in the top side. They knew that that most of his team was in the mid lane, and that at some point Panda would want to rotate towards his mid lane to be able to get some backup or help with the rest of the team. However, very well done coming out from Leaf and the rest of his team to say, hey, look, if Zed doesn't take a safe pathing here, he's gonna die for it, and they capitalized on it, and they did. Dragon
safe pathing. We've got to set up around the Dragon Turtle coming in immediately. Nova Jungle can get in there, as it will be taken over by Gomness side. The team is grouped up. Darius on the flank. They are pinned, and Shockwave onto one member. Ward Saves Live is the victim there, and Kingsgrove unwilling to commit. Lose the Dragon, and Baron may be on the agenda.
I think it was straight for Baron. They've lost... Kingsgrove North have lost one member, and that's when they're like, okay, well, we're taking the fight then.
And look at the positioning of Kingsgrove. They're all over the place. They've got Panda in mid lane, Owo in mid lane. Jungle Panda is just rotating now. I don't think that they can do anything here, and they are going to trade Baron for the bottom lane tier 2 turret there. A massive boon for Melbourne High School.
Yeah, an attempt. I mean, they were trying to go for a steal there, but they were way too slow. Leaf, however, in an awkward spot, is able to take second turret though.
Oh, goes in, trying to get a kill. Oh my god, he's almost killing Panda. Forces the flash out of the center there. He will eventually fall. But that is full tank Malphite almost solo killing Senna. That is... Panda's going to live in a constant state of paranoia now, being like, oh god, where's that Malphite ultimate?
Well, I mean, we all know that Malphite has abilities that increase damage based on his armor, so definitely do need to be wary of the fact that Malphite's base damage, or, I mean, you could say base damage, but damage based off armor build, his base damage is crazy.
It is very annoying to deal with, that is no question. I mean, I believe rank 3 ultimate for the Malphite is 400 damage on the Malphite ultimate just base, without any built AP, so quite annoying to deal with on that front there. As I do want to drag us down to bot lane for a second, Tico, and specifically I want to talk about this Senna. Now, where do you stand when it comes to Senna builds? Because I personally don't like Senna's building crit. I feel like you get enough stacks from, like, you don't need the extra range of the rapid fire cannon, nor would you, I assume, what's going to be an Infinity Edge. Like, where do we stand on this one, Tico? Are we in agreement? Do we disagree? Is the Infinity Edge big brain, none just small brain color cut of play-by-play? Is Jeff going to get out of this one alive? He's a level up, drops the Zhonya's nice and early, but... Oh my god, the flash sombrero! What a madman coming out of Chef Jeff here, as the depth charge will get the kill there. Wards Save Life is getting goon squatted in his own area, as Panda trying to do it again on the lead. Gets nice damage down on the lead, but it will not matter, as Melbourne High School are in a dominating position here, doing their best to fight it off. They will be forced to back up, as the Senna has finally gotten herself involved, but that was her. Flash sombrero out of Chef Jeff. Well played, my guy.
Yeah, that was beautifully played, getting the turnaround onto Panda. And I mean, everyone's like, oh my god, Chef Jeff missed the ulti. What are we gonna do? No, wait, I have flash. Never mind. I'm going to turn this around in my favor. And they do. They're able to do so. Now, I want to go back to your previous point, which I've forgotten already. Midnight, what were you talking about before?
Senate build pathing.
Ah, yes.
Do you think you should build crit?
Other than Runan's Hurricane, no.
Why would you build Runan's on Senna? You're disgusting.
Because more range. And safety. So Runan's Hurricane is usually considered a safe item for consistent DPS, right? For good poke damage. So you usually build it on a Caitlyn, even though Caitlyn has the highest range 80 carry base. Right?
Runan's lets you hit 3 targets.
Sorry, not Runan's, rapid fire.
Yeah, okay. I was really
Rapid
confused
fire.
for a second.
My mistake. Rapid fire I am talking about. So yeah, you usually see a rapid fire cannon. And okay, so I agree with the Senna's rapid fire cannon because extra range is amazing and it's good for safety. You see it on a Caitlyn usually because it's safety as well as extra damage, extra range. I'm not complaining, especially when they're single target focused damage. Senna's single target, Caitlyn's single target. I'm just comparing these two champions because they're really similar in terms of that sort of style.
Well, we're seeing some cheeky shenanigans there, and that's the ulti drop down. They really want to kill Chet there, but they're going to be careful to re-engage over the wall there, and the center is gone before the fight even begins. As the rest of Melbourne High School are now filtering into the fight, can they turn it around? It doesn't look like as Eddie's going to go down. Chef Jeff is going to have to do his job and do it damn well. Leaf trying to keep his mid laner alive. It looks like he will, but the arrival of Panda on the backline leaves Leaf alone in a 1 versus 4, and the Malphite will be forced to run away. Goon Squad attempt by Melbourne High School backfires colossally.
Yeah, beautiful Zonya's Hourglass coming out from Chef Jeff to be able to, you know, stay alive for a little bit longer. But, I mean, the burst is huge coming out from Kingsgrove. And especially when you have, like, what, 4 members on top of you?
Lee's getting caught out. He is going to fall down once again in this game. This is such a dead even game between these two teams. As we're seeing potentially another setup there. Chat is going to get wailed away on. He does not have access to the stone plate, and he will go down for the 5th time this game.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate spot, but if it does mean that the enemy team doesn't get a shutdown gold onto the Graves, I honestly do think that that was a worthy trade, getting your support to die instead of the Graves, who's got a 600 gold bounty over his head.
Gotta, you know, ward save, I was gonna say ward save, support saves lives, bro. You just gotta, you know, commit to the cause in that sort of situation here. Now, coming up, of course, the next thing we have to keep a track of, Tico, is going to be the Baron spawning in 30 seconds. And where will these teams go? Because last time we saw Baron, it backfired colossally. Let's not put 2 spins on that. It did not go too well for Kingsgrove last time they decided to give that a visit. And Melbourne High School just had a bit of a struggling team fight. Now, it does look like they're setting up is... I'm sorry, I just got caught up. There's a Zeal on a Zed.
Static Shiv. No. Yes. I'm saying
Why?
it's a Static Shiv. Extra burst. It's gonna be great. What other items could that Zeal build into?
My guess would be Phantom Dancer for the protection, but it just seems like such a weird item to buy on a Zed. I respect it, don't get me wrong, but just why?
I am really hoping it's a Static Shiv one, though.
The extra movement speed?
Yeah, extra movement speed. You get the same movement speed for the Phantom Dancer, though. It's 7% on both the Static Shiv and Phantom Dancer, but, ooh.
Whoa, that's an early Dawning Shadows.
Very early. But I guess they just wanted a zone with more ultimates.
Zed's on the flank, and I don't think they know Zed's behind them. So they're going to pull the enemy team in. The teleport's going to come in from Lee, and then Zed, he's going to fight Eddie. This is a disaster. If they lose Eddie before the fight even begins, that is going to be a disaster for Melbourne High School. They've lost their marksman. They can't actually contest with the Baron anymore. Panda may die for this, but the rest of the team doesn't care about Baron anymore. They're looking for the fight there as the Senna's doing what he can on the backline there to disengage. The Malphite going in is not enough to get the fight going. They're in a choke point against the Senna. She's happy to wail away on you. There is no damage from Melbourne. There is no life from Melbourne. There is only the team fight that they have lost.
No, they decided that they wanted to take a fight there, and I honestly think that it was probably not the smartest choice. They're playing really aggressive.
Oh, a beautiful catch off there from Panda. A triple kill coming in for the center. And the base of Melbourne High School is going to be broken on the back of a beautiful flank from the Zed.
A great flank coming out from a Panda. Well, he did his job. That's all he needed to do. Take out the primary damage, which was the marksman. Leaf is just farming minions, which is actually...
He's trying to hold the minion wave away, but I don't think it's going to matter. One Nexus turret falling down. The second is under fire here as Melbourne High School trying to mount a last effort defense there, but they lose their carry again. They lose the Nexus turrets themselves, and the Nexus under fire will crumble to the ground as game number 1 goes in favor of Kingsgrove over Melbourne High School in our best of 3 series.
And that was just game number 1, guys. This is a best of 3. that is how close these two teams are. They are fighting for the grand final spots for Meta High School. It's huge. These guys know what they're doing. They're going up against Rangi Toto in the best of 5 in the grand final. So they've got everything on the line, and they are going to fight for it tooth and nail. Only on game 1, we have so much more to go.
Yeah, and game number 1, there is so much that you could look at game number 1 and say, oh, this was super critical. This was really pivotal here. Mistakes coming in from both teams in game number 1. And I think what's going to be super, super important is when we do hit game number 2, how do these mistakes from game 1 impact you in game number 2? For example, Ward saved lives in this Darius versus Malphite top lane. He had a really rough game. There's no two ways to put it, unfortunately. He got bullied in lane from early ganks, and he really just wasn't able to do it much in that game on the Darius. Is he going to feel almost a need to overcompensate in game number 2? Is he going to try to pick, I don't know, over-the-top playmaker to try to step up? Or will he simply say, okay, look, I did my job, didn't do it brilliantly, but I was able to not fall too far behind on the likes of the Darius. There is so much these teams have to take into account to when we hit the second game of Summoner's Rift. Now, Tico, before we dive into game number 2, I do want to ask you if you could change one thing. If you're Melbourne High School, you're the coach. You have to plan one adaptation to what you saw from game number 1. What do you think your team needs to do to tackle down Kingsgrove?
Well, I do think they need to have a more synergistic composition because I feel like they had 2 different compositions here. They had the Orianna Malphite, which is a good one, but then they've sort of mitigated it with a Graves Ash Nautilus, which honestly I don't mind as a composition, but together it just didn't synergize well. But before we move on, I also need to mention that that Z flank for that last team fight was amazing. And I'm honestly going to say that was probably Torrens University play of the game for that match. So, guys, make sure you give some love over to Panda in the mid lane. Happy birthday, as well as amazing plays coming out. We're going over to game 2 midnight.
Yeah, game number 2, guys, is going to be right around the corner here, where Melbourne High School is going to have to fight back hard in order to resume themselves back into this one, as we will have our ads and sponsors, guys. So, guys, don't go anywhere, as game number 2 right around the corner.
Dad! Bring your family together. Optus Family Plan with 4 SIMs and 250 gigs of data to share.
Oh, 15 seconds. And welcome back, everybody, to game number 2 here for Meta, where we have Melbourne High School facing off against their opponents, Kingsgrove North High School. I am at midnight, joined by Tico for the game number 2 of the League of Legends series to find out who will be advancing to the grand final up against Rangi Toto College next week. Before we dive into game, though, before we can dive into our analysis, of course, we do want to thank our sponsors for helping us run today. That is, of course, as you can see behind us, Acer, Intel, Optus, Torrens University, as well as Harvey Norman. Now, coming into game number 2, Tico, Melbourne High School have got a bit of an uphill battle to climb. I think it's fair to say, coming into this one. And we had a bit of an idea of what needs to happen for game number 2, where they can fight back against their opponents. And you said it starts at the very beginning of a League of Legends match, the drafting.
Yeah, well, honestly, you do see a lot of teams fall apart based off their drafts, based off their composition. So I do feel like they need to put a bit more priority on on the sort of composition that they want to be building for their team, that they want to be playing, something that works together well. And I do like the concept of their Orianna Malphite, but they really need to do a little bit more with that to be able to get some more oomph behind that Malphite Orianna combo.
It also kind of hurts when you draft Malphite Orianna and your opponent's just like, look, we don't really want a team fight. We want to catch you out of position. So maybe not drafting to what their opponents decided to bring to the table there. And I think it's going to be interesting, the likes of the Senna. I think Senna had massive impact coming into that first game there, to the point where I think she is worth throwing her onto your ban list. Give up the likes of the Caitlyn potentially, who is also top tier marksman material right now. But I think that might be a good direction for these teams, as we do know in terms of side selection, Tico, the teams have actually swapped it over. So Kingsgrove is going to be on the blue side of Summoner's Rift, getting, of course, access to first pick, and Melbourne High School on the red side. Now, Senna, is she still if she gets to the ban phase, we have to assume she's going to be first pick priority for Kingsgrove, right?
Yeah. So they definitely do want to prioritize that AD carry. If Senna does get taken off, I do feel like Ashe is going to be a priority pick as well, because look, it's Senna, Ashe, and Caitlyn as priority AD carries. You can chuck Ezreal in there, but he's only in there because he's safe and he does consistent damage. So I do feel like that, yeah, you need to make sure that you either take on the side of Melbourne High School, you're either taking away that Senna or picking something that really counters that.
And what has been popping up in the bottom lane recently as an answer to these really well-scaling marksmen, Tico, is, oddly enough, mages. Ziggs bot lane has been popping up a little bit now again. Syndra has been rearing her head down there, as well as, almost infamously, Sona Lux has been tearing up the bottom lane recently. So I don't know if these teams have had much time to practice this new bottom lane that has been popping up recently, but it is always something we have to take into account coming into the second game.
Yeah, well, they're going over their normal bans so far, the Echo and the Shen being taken away. Priority picks, Echo more of a target onto Chef Jeff, but look, it's pretty standard, same as what we saw first game.
Yeah, nothing changing just yet, although this is where I expect adaptations to come through. Melbourne High School, this third ban I think is super important, because here's where you have to debate, is it the Galio, or do you look at the likes of the Senna, which I think is worth letting the Galio through for?
Yeah, well, yeah, I honestly do agree that they do need to prioritize that Senna. Or they could be pulling out that Sona Lux, but we'll have to see what they do here. The Senna is definitely something that they have to be weary of. A good one to take away, but that really leaves Senna open.
Yeah, that makes Senna, I think, more of a viable pick, in all honesty here. I would be surprised if they don't. Okay. So the other one of the top tier marksmen that we were talking about, Caitlyn, is going to get grabbed in here. That does leave Senna up and available. I feel like if you play Senna, you wait. You don't need to grab it this early. I think you look at the likes of a strong jungler here. Okay, can I throw out the rulebook? Is that an option now? I apparently just can't theory craft drafting anymore. Is Jin Morgana coming out from Melbourne High School?
Yeah, well, this is a good matchup as well. Well, we saw the Caitlyn pick, priority pick, which is fair enough. But that does mean that Kingsgrove North are like, okay, we're forcing you to pick a Morgana. Because if you don't pick a Morgana, we're going to draft a Caitlyn Morgana comp, and you are not going to like that. So they forced the Morgana pick to come out from chat. So they just force Morgana onto chat. And what pairs well with Morgana? Well, Jhin. Jhin does rather well in terms of locking down whoever Morgana is able to dark bind. So that is, Jin's a viable pick, but really only in this scenario.
Yeah, it just seems a bit weird to see him popping up here. And interestingly, Kingsgrove have paired up the Caitlyn with the Lulu. Not something I was expecting coming into this game, because yes, we know that Owo is a bit more of a not utility player, but a enchanter player. So they like their mages, but the Lulu just seems a little bit of an odd one to pair up with the likes of a Caitlyn when Nami, for example, I think Nami Caitlyn is such a phenomenal lane.
Yeah, but this tells me one thing. This tells me one thing, Midnight.
What does it tell you?
That Lulu is not for Caitlyn.
That is nightmare fuel. Because what else is this for, like a Olaf jungle? Is that what this preparation is for?
I don't know just yet. We have yet to see, but I mean it does somewhat well with the Caitlyn, but really you do not want to pair. You have better supports for a Caitlyn. So this Lulu picks either tells me that OO really likes Lulu and doesn't really want to stray from Lulu, or their mid or jungle is a hyper carry.
It could just be, as you said, a bit of a comfort pick. Lulu Caitlyn isn't horrible. I think that's something we should emphasize. It's just that Caitlyn's one of these champions that doesn't benefit massively when it comes to attack speed given to her. So we'll see how that ends up taking itself as we are powering through the second round of bans here. Double jungle bans of the Rek'Sai as well as the Lilia thrown at Kingsgrove. I think quite justly. The Lilia last game was a menace to deal with. And Rek'Sai is always an early game champion who will find a way into your lane and like claw your face off like in a really badly trained pet cat. So let's see how that goes. As Trundle has been grabbed here by Gonesai. And that already alarms me, Tico, because Trundle's the answer to like an Ornn, a tank. Whose stats is he going to be stealing?
Overgrown Lulu's. Target.
Ugh.
There you go.
Big brained it. We figured out the code, guys. Oh,
there you go.
There you go. The Olaf is what you can steal it out of there. And what I was talking about, Olaf is the Lulu partner here because Olaf, he gets lower, he attacks more, he heals more. Guess who's got an attack speed steroid for you, Olaf? It's the Lulu, ready to go. So I'm very interested to see how this Olaf is able to go and what Panda has for the mid lane. 4 seconds left. Tick tock goes the clock, as it is going to be
nothing.
At some point, there you go. Cannon?
Mid lane.
But
that wasn't supposed to happen. Yep.
Okay. I was about to say, there is no world where Kennen gets locked in here.
Oh. Okay. So OO doesn't actually have the champion that they wanted to pick.
Oh,
which was the Cassiopeia.
Oh, the Cassiopeia makes a lot of sense, and I actually love that. Cassio, late game, is insane to deal with, and I'm in fear. I fear Cassiopeia, Caitlyn, Lulu. Because you have to get past the Caitlyn's range and the Lulu buffer in order to get onto the Cassiopeia, and then the Cassiopeia just starts laughing at you, and she just constantly smashes you in the face with twin tangs.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pain, but I mean, I sort of did call the hyper carry in the jungler or the mid lane, so I'm just gonna say Tika big brain right over here.
Technically yes, but of all hyper carries, Cassio Lulu.
Oh, it wasn't. I was just saying that I think the focus was not going to be onto the AD carry this time because we see a Lulu pick paired with a Caitlyn, and I'm like, okay, that's not for the Caitlyn. There's going to be another carry somewhere else.
Yeah, and it pairs up, I think, really well, as you said, with the Olaf that we did get to see, as well as, of course, the Cassiopeia, this late game machine gun mage. Who I personally think Cassio puts Rise to shame when it comes to the damage she can output with the appropriate quantities of mana. And I think that is going to be so critical when we look at Kingsgrove and their team fight, is what is the mana bar of this Cassiopeia? Because as long as she's got mana, she can fight. But the second she gets to that last, I think, fifth of her mana pool, there's so little that Cassio can actually do in a team fight to support her team. Yeah,
well, so they need to maintain that mana pool. Olaf, the Cassiopeia should be the lock in here. If not, I have been horribly mistaken. But,
there it is.
Yep, it is the Cassiopeia. That is going to be the carry, the late game insurance for this team. I am a little bit worried in terms of the amount of lockdown from the Malphite and the Morgana and the Jhin, as well as we don't know who the mid laner is yet on the side of Melbourne High School. So
yeah, well, we know it can't be Orianna, but I do agree with you. Cassio's whole shtick is she is so hard to lock down. She is mobile. She gets additional movement speed whenever she lands her Q. But Morgana, Jhin has a root on him. Again, Malphite can literally decide that she's not allowed to move anymore. It's going to be very difficult for her to stay alive in the fights. But if she does, she will carry them single-handedly if needed. And then you raise the question, Chef, what do you bring to the table here? Like, I feel like Chef is obligated to play an aggressive assassin like a Zed, almost. Put Cassio down early. Do not give her the chance to scale into the late game. Because I feel like trying to match late game for late game when it comes to a Cassio is just never a good idea.
Corki's not a bad one here. In terms of consistent DPS, AP damage, because they have a Jhin and a Trundle. Azir Corki.
Yeah, Azir Corki feels like the best option here. I personally would prefer a Corki to the likes of an Azir, purely on the basis of a Corki trying to run away from the likes of an Olaf is really difficult. Azir's ability to kite Olaf and Darius because of the Emperor's Divide is quite higher. And the Azir is going to be locked in for the table. So the Emperor of Shurima will be taking Summoner's Rift, trying to lead Melbourne High School to victory.
Yeah. Again, I felt like I ascended.
You have become the big brain color caster you have always desired to be.
Okay, so as I was saying before, like it's the basis that I put the Corki on was consistent DPS and AP damage, which is what Azir does as well. But Azir is a little bit more hyperscale esque. You could say glass cannon, but not really, because Azir is a little bit more than that, and he's got CC, he's got movement. But yeah, no, Azir is a good pick here as well. The reason why I said Corki was because of the mobility that a Corki does have in his kit with the Valkyrie. So, Azir is a good pick as well. So
yeah, I was gonna say, as well as the constant, you need DPS, because Melbourne High School, Jhin hits hard, but he doesn't hit often, and so you need the likes of DPS. Again, Azir and Corki are both perfect examples of high DPS mid lane hyper, like, I wouldn't say hyper scaling, because again, Corki scales great but not hyper. DPS champions. And the one concern I have with Azir, and it's the concern I always have when I see an Azir, is Azir's skill cap. And a good Azir cannot at any point mess up his positioning, because all it takes is one step forwards as an Azir to just get deleted or to mess up where you position your soldiers on the battlefield. You have to have such precision when operating this champion that I'm not saying that Chef can't do it. I'm saying at no point can Chef go into autopilot mode, because at that point, Cassio and Olaf are going to jump on him and take him down.
Yeah. So Chef does need to be wary of that. However, we have other lanes as well to look through. So, I mean, we've seen it before. Malphite, Darius. It is the exact same champions on the exact same players. So I think we will be seeing something similar happening up in the top side. Olaf might be showing his face up in the top side just to get this Darius ahead a little bit more and not have a repeat of what we saw in the first game. But also, I do think that Gomenasai will be sort of shadowing Panda in terms of trying to track where this Olaf is and making sure that he's getting potentially a counter gank off.
I think specifically that needs to happen in top lane. We saw in game number 1, as you said, what happens when Gomenasai gets an uncontested gank. Ward Save Live, he got set behind early, and he was never really able to recover. So I feel like if Panda's Olaf is able to set up, maybe be the first gank, or set up for a counter gank on the top half of the map, that could be where we get to see Ward Saves Lives get unleashed on his opponents there. Because if Darius gets ahead, we say it time and time again, Tico, a Darius ahead will find you and he will Liam Neeson you 6 ways to Sunday. Well, at least I say it that way. I don't know if I've never heard anyone else use the phrase Liam Neesoning as a verb, but
no, I don't think anyone's used it as a describing word. But I mean, you're welcome to, everyone. Just make sure that you, whenever you say the quote, you credit Midnight Caster.
Every single time when you write it in your VCE essay, you need to ensure that quote Midnight the Caster on that meta stream that one time.
Gotta get the dates in there as well.
Yeah, the dates. It's the 5th of the 9th. There you go. That's
and then like in brackets inside that bracket, you gotta quote the Taken. Is that the movie that it's from?
Yes. Have you?
Yeah.
You haven't.
I have not seen Taken.
Neither have I.
Okay. Well, there you go. Where we are not educated in current media or however old Taken is.
It's
if anyone's ever seen Taken.
It's pretty old, I'm pretty sure. I actually couldn't tell you. Now, back on topic a little bit, Tico. I do want to talk about this bottom lane a little bit, because it's the lane we haven't really talked about much. Lulu Caitlyn, of course, facing up against the likes of Morgana and Jhin. Now, it feels a bit odd to look at Caitlyn, who right now is one of the strongest marksmen in the game, whose whole shtick is, I'm going to win early, and I'm going to use that lead to scale. Up against the likes of a Jhin, whose shtick is, hey, I'm going to bully you early game and take over. So as much as I think we are going to see a lot of attention shown on the top half of the map, could we also see the junglers looking at this bottom lane and saying, hey, whoever gets ahead early should be the ones in charge of the game?
I do think that we might see a bit more presence from Gomena's side down in the bot side, because, I mean, we talked about it, we just said it before. Jhin wants to get an early lead as well, just to be able to bully out the Caitlyn. And I do think that with the Jhin and the Morgana, they need to make sure that they get that lead to make sure that Caitlyn and Lulu don't really do anything with it.
Yeah, and that'll be super critical for them. But I'm seeing some fun things already, Tico. I'm seeing the best item in League of Legends picked up by the Caitlyn, which is, of course, the Cull. And that does give us more of an indication, at least to me, that the bottom lane from Kingsgrove is less aiming for, okay, let's kill Jhin Morgana, let's put them down in the dirt, and more saying, hey, I'm going to farm, I'm going to build a 1,000 gold lead in lane, and then you're going to find out what happens when you try step to a Cassiopeia.
Yeah, not my problem anymore. Which is sort of my motto when I go in the top lane. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play Teemo, and then I'm gonna let the Nasus scale, and then he's not my problem anymore, because I'm gonna just keep split pushing on the other side of Summoner's Rift. Which is basically how they're playing this one out. Hopefully, Panda will hand it over to Panda, who will have the help of Panda to be able to take down Panda's enemies. I had to. Lulu needs to run, though.
Yeah, OO shouldn't get caught out there too badly. The Dark Binding, even if that did connect, I don't think that was going to net too much coming in here. As the early game will be kicking off, nothing too odd here. Both junglers will kick off on the red side. Something interesting, Tico, is we talk about Azir and his late game hyperscaling. Now, Azir goes 1 of 3 runes keystones and basically tells you how he's going to play based on that. Now, one of them is indeed the Arcane Comet that we see. Would you like to play a guessing game upon what are the other 2 keystones?
For Azir.
For the Azir, yes.
That he can possibly pick.
That is standard for him to go for, I think I should say. Because you could technically go Aftershock, but you shouldn't.
I'd say Lethal Tempo and Electrocute.
Lethal Tempo, yes. Unfortunately, the last one's actually is a fun one. Hail of Blades.
Oh, yes.
The third one that we typically see out of him. Now,
correct.
And each tells you how he's going to play. Chef Jeff is playing for the lane. He's going, I'm going to poke you down in lane and take ahead of this game. So, I think it's something we have to keep track of here. Is, oh no, level 2 in the bot lane first. Oh, well, you need to sidestep the Dark Binding. You did! Oh. And congratulations, you can fight back. Owo sidestepping there had to be perfect to psych chat out, and mission success.
I feel like chat should have held on to that Dark Binding though. Honestly, should have just walked in towards that bush right behind Owo, just held on to the Q, because we all know the threat of the ability is more dangerous than the use of it. So just holding on to it, walk straight up to Owo, a point blank Dark Binding, and that Owo can't walk away from, and they should have been able to pick up a kill off the back of that.
Yeah, that could have been a way to do that, but Owo sidestepping, as well as Panda's Caitlyn, was pushing up a little bit in the lane, so making them a little bit nervous about to go for the legs of that trade. Did save the bottom lane there for Kingsgrove, as I'm seeing what could be some excitement, Tico, because look at the two junglers. We're seeing Olaf wailing away on the Scuttlebug on the top half of the map here, and Gomenesai has abandoned the top half of the map, maybe because he knows what's going on, as Leaf taking a lot of damage here. Thankfully, he's doing There's one more flash in! The flash away from Leaf. The hemorrhage stacks will not be enough damage, but Panda staying coming up there, so Leaf has to go.
Very, very interesting.
Oh my lord!
Flashes all around.
There's no... Alright, goodbye, Leaf. It was an honor knowing you, but unfortunately, there is no world where you get out of here alive. Panda just wailing the dunk down as Owo's in trouble. Needs to dodge the Dark Binding. Is point blank, as you said, but misses. Owo might actually be able to get an Ignite. Is down, the flash coming through there. The trap, the Deadly Flourish not connecting, and Owo gets that in one piece.
And it's the Dark Bindings that Owo is reading beautifully. And I'm assuming chat is so frustrated is just really frustrated with how well Owo is dodging these. That I'd be frustrated. I'd be sort of.
Oh no, this is mean. Leaf just wants to get to lane, Panda. You can't be bullying him like this. They're gonna dive him again, aren't they?
Well, they really want Owo down here.
Oh, get some revengeance, but there's not much they can do here. The Dark Binding lands, but you can't tower dive them in that sort of situation.
Not enough HP all around.
All right, I think things are calming down, Tico. We might be able to take a step back and chill out for just a moment as the two bot lanes do quite a bit of skirmishing here. The fourth shot down into Panda as everything is another beautiful Dark Binding. So, our two junglers, we've seen top side from Panda to get ward save live ahead, and quite successfully 33 CS to 10 in the Darius' favor so far. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Gomenesai's attempt of a gank unfortunately has not worked out too well, and we might see, jungle impact being quite prevalent in this early game.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did talk about how Panda in the jungle is going to put a lot of priority up on this top side, not having a repeat of the first game where the Darius just wasn't doing anything for the team. And I mean, I honestly think that they did. I'm not saying that they carried ward save lives, but Darius, the champion, just wasn't able to do what it needed to do to be able to be as impactful as a Darius should be. So, I feel like they're putting more priority around this top lane just to make sure that this Darius is going to be able to impact the lane.
Or more in this case, as Gomenesai level 4 is going to pick up the kill here. Leaf is playing with fire, but Gomenesai will be able to pick up the kill there. Darius, once again, the recipient of an early gank.
It's a rough spot. It is a very rough spot for ward save live. He could have backed and completed his recall, but I feel like he just greeded a little bit to get a ward, get some vision around his lane, and I think the best course of action would have been to back and finish his recall, but unfortunately, he didn't read the play. He didn't realize that Gomenesai was coming towards the top side, and then dies for it.
And once again, I suspect we may have... Well, we'll have to see how it goes. Because so far, while it's a different situation than what we saw in game number 1, because obviously Leaf has been put down a little bit more, but he has still been able to pick up the Bramble Vest. So we'll see how that top lane goes for this matchup this time around, Tico. As a look in the middle lane here, both of them farming up quite happily. Tier already on Panda, wanting to get that stacked up as quickly as possible, as always. And the two junglers may be butting heads once again, as I don't think we've really seen Gomenesai do much in terms of scuttle control. He's had to give up top lane once again, and part of that is Olaf will find him and, you know, whack him to death with his meaty sticks. But, like, you need to be contesting them for the Scuttle Crabs because the experience that they provide is so important for junglers nowadays.
Yeah, as well as just the amount of control that it brings across the rift. So they do, I do agree that Gromenicide needs to prioritize some of these Scuttle Crabs. But look, Panda's been all over it. Panda has gotten control of at least 3 of the 4 that have been up so far. So I think only 3 have been up so far. So Panda's gotten control of all 3 of them. And yeah, I do think that Gromenicide, maybe rather than getting a couple ganks off bot, which were unsuccessful, he walked past the rift, the Scuttle Crab, probably could have been able to pick it up along the way to be able to get, you know, get some of that experience as well as get a gank down bot.
Speaking of a gank down bot, he is trying to look for something, but Panda, no way, they are going to back away. An immediate flash from Panda. Now Ovo might be the target, but she should be able to get out without too many problems to boot. And I like the attempt. It did force the flash out of Panda, but a flash for flash at the end of the day because Chat also burnt his.
Yeah, and we do see Chef Jeff rotating down towards his dragon. They want to get some priority around it as well. Trundle should be able to, with the help of
Panda's making it very clear they've got backup coming through, but needs to be careful as Wildgo coming out. The reinforcements, Azir is here as well. This is the disaster. Curtain call comes through. It is showtime, baby. The teleport coming through may not save them through as they are already losing members. Ragnarok coming out, the Cassiopeia on Panda trying to do what he can. The Twin Bangs is plenty as TPs are cancelled on the top half of the map here between the 2 top laners as Wards saves lives cannot lock down Leaf using the Unstoppable Force to get it alive.
Yeah, just top lane things. I feel like we missed a little bit of what happened towards the end of that fight, but yeah, the direct camera seems to like the wet notified's top lane. They did cancel the teleport, so you're right. Malphite was forced to use the Unstoppable Force to be able to get over the wall and away from the Darius, who did have his execute. So, you know, smart plays coming out from Leaf to realize, to know the matchup well enough to do that.
Yeah, getting out in one piece, and that is just versing Darius early game in a nutshell, is you just cannot afford to die. If you can go, yes, you'll be behind. So, for example, CS is looking not brilliant for the likes of the top lane matchup, and he is 700 gold down on the Malphite, but he isn't feeding kills unnecessarily to the Darius. And yes, it's not brilliant that he's behind, but he's not 0-6 compared to a 6-0 Darius at the end of the day. And that is something you have to give credit for.
Yeah, well, neutralizing lanes is really basically what Malphite is. Doesn't gain as much priority as other champions do, as Malphite only does have like 1 ranged ability and becomes a projectile every 2 minutes to be able to have as much impact as some of the other champions. But
it's then Malphite will all come back in a second, as Panda might be in trouble there. The Roam will force a disengage. I was gonna say, even if he does fall behind, even if 1,000, 2,000 gold behind, Malphite at the end of the day will still be relevant in a team fight for one simple reason: Unstoppable Force. He will either catch someone in it, or he will force a flash for someone to dodge it. So even if, you know, he doesn't have the damage output, even if he's gonna die half a second later, he has still forced resources from the enemy team to deal with him. And I think that's kind of why Malphite, you know, despite being an old champion, despite his kit being obsolete in so many regards when you compare them to the newer champions, like Yone or Lilia, or even the new one coming out, Samara's excessive mobility, Malphite will always be relevant because if you can't flash an Unstoppable Force, he will find you and he will beat you up.
Yeah, well,
talking about that top lane, Leaf, yeah, buddy, you don't win this matchup anymore. This isn't last game. You aren't 20 CS up.
Definitely do have to respect the 1v1 potential from the Darius. Panda's in a bit of danger though.
Going to size hanging around too, but he is just there to drop the Rift Herald. So nothing more than that there is. we're seeing some fun things happening on the bottom half of the map. Panda's trying to sneak in to not get noticed, but will get some sense of... Is that a TP? Okay.
Yeah, has to stop them from taking the rest of the turret with that Rift Herald. Which is actually pretty smart for them to be able to realize that Rift Herald could have possibly taken that turret down in the mid lane. And honestly, I don't think that Kingsgrove want to lose that this early in the game, because that opens up the map so much for Melbourne High School to potentially come back into the...
Yeah, you can't afford to there, as we're seeing the teams... Maybe Kingsgrove trying to compensate for the fact that their mid lane is so low, invading the enemy jungle there, grabbing themselves the blue buff. Minute and a half before the next dragon spawns, as they've actually decided to pull a lane swap, throwing Casio top lane to try and manage it, but now they're going in onto her. Yes, just a sidestep by turning his back onto them and will run them down, but Panda does not go down without a fight, making it a 1-for-1.
You can't turn a rock into stone if he's already stone.
Also, you can't turn him to stone when he's not looking at you as a Cassiopeia.
That was the joke. The Malphite didn't get turned into stone because it's a rock.
If we're having this debate, how is Nami able to heal Brand? She uses water and he is fire.
And how is Lee Sin able to get affected by blind?
Because Lee Sin's a lie. He's not actually blind.
Yeah, and Nami's not actually... Brand's not actually made of fire. It's just paper flying everywhere. And he's got, like, air vents under him at all times.
He's basically Mysterio from that new
oh, yeah.
Spider-Man film.
Yeah.
Far From Home, is that...
Far...
I haven't watched Marvel in
It is
so
Far
long,
From Home.
man.
You're right. You're right. You are correct. Anyway, getting back on the topic.
Back on point.
Back
the
on
mid lane
point.
turret's gone, which is a problem.
They decided they wanted to. Yeah,
but this is the problem now for Kingsgrove, because whenever Kingsgrove are going to try fight for a dragon now, they don't have the safety of a turret. They don't have somewhere where they can rally the team and establish themselves, a safe place to drop wards from. They're going to have to basically charge through their own jungle and hope that it works. And talking about hoping that it works, Leaf is 2 levels down. Flash for flash here.
Really wants that ulti.
And the slow for the seismic shard. If Lee's feeling confident, he can wait a couple seconds. His ultimate's almost up.
Oh, okay. So they are going to be able to take that Cloud Drake for the side of Kingsgrove North High School, which does bring them back to a 2,000 gold difference between the two teams. However, as we just saw on the top side, Ward Save Lives does have to back away from this one. Unstoppable Force is now up, and the respect is actually a pretty decent one. Teleport from top.
Oh, Chef Jeff coming in with a flank TP. A beautiful Empress Divine catches Panda out. Farewell, Caitlyn. You're going to go down. And Owo forced a run, but she can go nowhere but back to base, courtesy of Melbourne High School.
A beautiful 5-man bot lane coming out from the side of Melbourne High School. They played that one beautifully. They were able to catch out the Caitlyn with the Shurima Shuffle and the Emperor's Divide. And then as well, with the Unstoppable Force, they caught out Owo as well to be able to take down 2 members of the side of Kingsgrove North, which does bring them to a 1,000 gold difference between the two teams, and really starting to bring this game back in their favor.
Yeah, a massive goon squad and a great way to bring gold back into the game. As you said, they were sitting at 2,000 gold behind. Now just 100. Oh my lord, Panda's not going in. He picked up Eddie. He doesn't give a damn about your crowd control. He is Ragnarok in the house for a double.
Okay, well, look. 2v1 doesn't even matter. I do feel like that shield probably, if it was put on Eddie, might have been able to keep him alive for a little bit longer. But doesn't really matter when they both die to just straight up damage.
Don't think would save them there, because the slow wasn't the problem. It was the angry Viking just running them down and wailing away on them. So real good credit there for Panda on the Olaf to realize, hey, I can just kill both of them in a 1v2. I'm doing it. And that's a bit weird, because sometimes in best of series, you get players who are almost afraid to make that next play. They're afraid to take something that might be considered risky, because if it goes wrong, well, everyone gets to see it. I'm sure, we'll come back to that in a second. Also, Live knows this. Teleport coming in to turn this around. This could be a disaster now. They realize this is not the fight that they want. Leaf's trying to make it work, but it does not matter when the guillotine comes out big. Panda charging forwards there with the ace in the hole, not going to kill anybody. As I wonder what Panda and Owa were doing to get caught out like that.
They weren't in the right position, but it does look like they dragged enough attention down bot side for the rest of their team to be able to secure their Rift Herald. Yes.
Yeah. Curtain Call coming out here may mean the start of a re-engage here, but instead it looks like Golden Side just wants the Scuttlebug. Will not be allowed to get it, as we will be forced away courtesy of Panda and, Panda, unsurprisingly, in the mid and jungle roles, respectively. Now, the question for Melbourne High School is, where do you go from here? Because the next objective is spawning in a minute and a half. You're being zoned away from it because Lulu Caitlyn is annoying as hell to deal with the Infinity Edge on the Caitlyn. And the range is keeping Eddie from going anywhere near the Dragon Pit.
Yeah, well, I mean, now imagine that Caitlyn with a rapid fire cannon. I'm just saying.
I don't want to imagine Caitlyn with a rapid fire cannon and a Lulu buff. You can't make me do that, Tico.
Well, I'm making you do it, and I'm making our viewers do it as well, because that's going to be one heavy auto attack being striked upon the nearest foes of Panda. But
the question is then, how do you get on top of her? Because the Lulu protection should basically make Panda immortal. In terms of getting to her is, Malphite and Trundle's job to run through her damage and her trap line to try to get onto her. And then Trundle doesn't really have the damage output. If you look at the build, Golden Sai, I think very rightly so, has gone for a very defensive, protective-oriented build with the rushed Knight's Vow. But that also means when he does get to Panda, he can't do anything about it because it's a press the attack Trundle with no damage output.
Oh, they're potentially going something for bot side, but they get spotted out by a control ward in that river. We do see that the Soul Dragon is going to be a Ocean, so that's going to be a huge team fight changer. Well, I'm not going to say it's going to be a huge changer because it's just more of sustain to be able to keep it in their favor, I guess. Chef Jeff might
get ready for a team fight, Tico, because Chef Jeff, forced to disengage with the rest of his team, will be setting up on the top half of the river here, as both teams are well aware of the Dragon's importance. But Melbourne High School look like they don't want to commit to it just yet, and if they can catch out the Darius, that will be nice. But the Dragon is started up. They are aware that this is going. The question is, what do you do? Do you commit to the fight, or do you try push mid-wave? The answer seems to be not the fight itself, as they are choosing to disengage. Some poke coming down here. Curtain Call opening up to get some nice extra damage down. No one is pulling the trigger just yet. Leaf is looking for something. It's Warsane's life. They do catch out the Darius. The Darius is the primary target there, as Jin is slow to join the fight. Panda's Caitlyn is wailing away, and that is it. The Cassio leading the charge on the follow-through here, as Kingsgrove will cut down Melbourne High School. A triple kill, make that a quadra kill, coming in for the Caitlyn.
Panta. They are going to dive this one.
They are,
100%.
If they dive this, they are feeding a triple kill over to Chef Jeff, is what they're doing.
And a pentakill over to Panda, and you have to do it for the Penta.
No, but you don't.
Chef Jeff, he is sticking around.
Oh, they're going in for it. One more hit will do it. We'll get the kill. Flash coming out. Panda's pulls him a Peacemaker, not able to get the connection. Oh, yeah! Screw your Emperor's Divide. The guillotine takes no prisoners.
No, and animation canceling is the best thing because that didn't happen there. But really well played for them to be able to get basically an ace off onto Melbourne High School. They did lose the Dragon. No, they didn't actually. No, Kingsgrove North High School. I think they snuck it. I honestly think that they snuck that Dragon a little bit too quickly. And once Melbourne High School finally realized that the Dragon had already been started, and the person that they were targeting was a distraction, that they just sort of
my lord,
were doing damage a little bit too quickly, and they just took Dragon quite easily. Okay.
Cassio Olaf, they've got the damage output for this easily. They do get caught out though, so they will be forced to back away for now. But Melbourne High School, I think, have to be nervous now because, as you said, the Dragon basically got like sniped out under their noses without them realizing. There's no way they're not going to be paranoid about the Dragon now, the Baron, sorry. And now you have questions. Are you going to TP Chef Jeff up from the bottom lane? Are you going to contest this? What are you going to do, guys? As you need to do something. There is no flash on the likes of the Trundle. Another TP coming through here, but the Dragon is... Oh, it's already gone! They've already taken the Baron, and there's going to be no form of engage coming out of Melbourne High School. They can't do anything. They burnt the TP and still lost the objective.
Yeah, I mean, the burst coming out from Kingsgrove is immense, and they just needed to have dealt with this earlier on. And Cassiopeia scales. They didn't do enough to I mean, it's obvious, Cassiopeia scales. They didn't do enough to make sure this Caitlyn was shut down, and now she's dishing out. Now Panda's dishing out so much damage with the help of OO. OO is doing so much for the Caitlyn as well as the Olaf, just keeping everyone alive. She's just a gem for their team. They needed to shut this down early, or else the scaling was going to happen. And unfortunately, Kingsgrove are playing to the timers, and the timers are looking real good for them.
Oh yeah, the scaling game is going brilliantly. The Cassiopeia and the Caitlyn. Now, some people say that Caitlyn isn't brilliant late game. I disagree. I think in terms of late game damage output, she's phenomenal. Not a hyper carry. Nothing. She has nothing. She can't hold a counter to the likes of the Jinx or the Kog'Maw or even the Tristana. But she is a phenomenal late game carry because of the range that she has available to her. The fact that she is so hard to get on top of makes her such a pain to deal with. As we're seeing an engage. No!
Oh.
He misses the unstoppable force. That is a disaster.
Yeah, and I don't even know if he missed that or if that 50 caliber net. 50
caliber net.
90 caliber net was just well timed. But either way, Panda played that really well to be able to not get caught out by the ultimate.
And now Melbourne High School, without their primary form of engage, have to start wondering, well, what do they do? As they're now getting picked up into a fight. Panda and Warsave Life decide to go in a 2 versus 3 there, under the turret. The first execute coming through there as Warsave Life is trying to do what he can. He will crumble, though, as maybe a little bit of over-ambition coming through. Panda is getting attacked by the curtain call, but I don't think they give a damn.
No, they definitely don't. They can just walk away from this one. Cassiopeia is shoving in topside and teleporting down towards here as well, just to join in the team. Say, hey, I'm joining, guys. We're here. Oh, look at that attack speed from Olaf, though.
Oh, the Petrifying Gaze coming out, turning Malphite to stone and taking him down. The contradiction may be real, Tico, but the mechanic is not, as the rest of the team are coming forwards. Oh my god, going into the backline with the Streamer Shuffle, but it's not going to matter, as now they are just getting dived on top of. They are too far behind. It's far too little, far too late for Melbourne High School here. 10,000 gold. The Dragon Soul to boot is in the favor of Kingsgrove here, and Melbourne High School, you've got to scatter to the wind, but it will not save you.
Okay, well, that Darius just showed up on the wrong side of Summoner's Rift, and that did not work out for the Jhin. And they should be able to take down the rest of this base. Caitlyn pushing in the mid wave. They're going to be able to take down this bot tier inhibitor as well. With these small amount of minions they've shoved in with this base, they should be able to take the rest of it alongside them.
Yeah, the first Nexus turret under fire is going to crumble as Panda diving forwards on this Cassiopeia, doing a lot of damage output as the rest of the team zones them away. Chat Gonosai, as well as they trying to do with the cannons, Warsave's lives diving in, but it's not going to matter as the second Nexus turret has fallen and Kingsgrove take the best of 3 series in a clean 2-0 sweep.
Very, very well played. More convincing in that second game coming out from Kingsgrove North. Melbourne, they held on to it for so long, but unfortunately they weren't able to bring it back, especially with that scaling composition that played so well. A smooth transition from the Caitlyn, from the Darius into the Caitlyn, into the Cassiopeia. And so off the back of that, Kingsgrove North High School, they do take the victory. They take the 2-0 in this best of 3 and move on to the grand finals.
Exactly, and they're going to have to take on Rangitoto College later on in the future. So best of luck for them, because game number 1 of that series was dead even for so long. And honestly, it was super interesting to watch those two teams butt heads for such a duration. And there is a lot that you can tackle about that game. You can look at the mistakes that were made. You can look at the jungle pathing specifically, I think are so important for Kingsgrove. Their use of Panda in the jungle, if you need to be able to track those and see how they go, Tico, as that is going to be, as we said, meta for League of Legends done and dusted for you today. But that should not be it, as there is still plenty of meta action to come in the future. Of course, thanks to our sponsor before we dive into that, Acer, Intel, Optus, Harvey Norman, and Torrens University have, of course, made all of this possible. You can see them behind myself and Tico. Now,
Midnight.
Yes.
Yes. I think we're on the same page here.
Are we?
MVP.
Yes, we are.
Yes. Good to know we're on the same page, Midnight.
Fire away. Who do you think we're on the same page about, Tico, for this series today?
Okay. Well.
Is it one of the pandas?
Okay, so there is a 3 out of 5%.
Yes, 3 out of 5.
There's a 3 out of 5 chance that it is a panda, and a 5 out of 5 chance that it is a Panda Republic panda.
So am I right? Is it a panda?
I'm gonna say it's panda mid lane.
All right, panda mid lane. Well, actually, I love how we were actually in agreement for that one there. Mostly, it is a panda. I look at panda in the bot lane as a contender for this, purely because in game number 1, Senna was really, really strong. It was super fun to watch the Senna in game number 1. And in game number 2, the Caitlyn pulled her weight. But the Cassiopeia game was phenomenal coming out of mid panda there. So we have, of course, our MVP there from Kingsgrove North High School for your League of Legends Bennett. Now, guys, League of Legends is done and dusted, but meta is far from done, as we have NBA 2K coming up soon between our two players. So guys, do not go anywhere. League of Legends is over, but NBA is just around the corner.
Away.